The katabatic wind scours the ice, a sound like tearing silk. Inside the steam-warmed fumarole, the air is thick with sulfur and ozone. Light from a headlamp glints off something metallic, half-sheathed in rime ice, where the cave floor collapsed. It's a bronze box, no larger than a prayer book, its surface greened with age. A geologist's gloved hand brushes away the ice, revealing two seals stamped into the metal. One is the familiar profile of the Southern Cross. The other, unmistakable, is the Fisherman's ring. A radio crackles to life, the clipped transmission cutting through the hush of the Erebus ice cave. McMurdo, this is Erebus team. We have a find. Unscheduled. Inside the reliquary, nested in dry moss, is a fragment of vellum stained dark brown, a tight braid of black hair, and a simple, ciphered phrase etched in Latin. Linea Australis Petri. The line of Peter. The Southern Line. In Rome, the quiet of the Vatican Apostolic Archive is a different kind of silence, scented with old paper and beeswax. Sister Lucía Rinaldi, her fingers deft on the keyboard, aligns. The sequence reads, "The sample from Antarctica arrived in a cryocarrier, its Chinovka study log. A meticulous document, spanning from McMurdo Station to Christchurch to Fiumicino. Its ancient DNA, fragmented and degraded, the cytosine bases showing the telltale deamination patterns of time. But a UDG-treated library yields a partial haplogroup, a faint genetic echo, cross-referencing against the Vatican's confidential genomic Panusa project initiated for medical, not genealogical purposes. Flag appears a low-coverage match, distant but statistically significant. Links the Antarctic sample to a single living person, the newly elected Pope Innocent, a pontiff loaded for his quiet humility, whose maternal ancestry is a blank page in the official record. Isotopic analysis of the hair situates its owner in a subpolar environment, their diet rich in marine life. Radiocarbon dating places the Vellum squarely in the early 17th century. The blood is human. The pieces refuse to connect. Lucia's authorization unlocks deeper, more restricted archives, where files are bound in red ribbon and sealed with wax. She uncovers whispers of a suppressed fraternity, the Ordo Australis, founded in 1605. It was an unusual alliance of Jesuit astronomers, their eyes fixed on the southern celestial hemisphere, and hardened sailors who knew the treacherous routes around the Horn. Their charter, written in elegant humanistic script, speaks of a sacred charge to spirit a curial family, shadowed by a scandal that threatened the Petrine office itself. Hawaii, from Romeo's political machinations, they were given a new identity, a new life on the wailing roots of the southern oceans. Memos from the era, penned in hurried, ciphered marginalia, tracked their path. The trail surfaces centuries later in Parish, records from Tierra del Fuego. The names altered but the haplogroup consistent. A translated logbook from the 1957-58 International Geophysical Year. A period of unprecedented scientific cooperation in Antarctica provides the final link. A descendant part of an Argentine delegation deposited a sacred trusta, Reliquary, a place of perpetual ice and perpetual silence. The circle closes. The hush of the Erebus ice cave mirrors the hush of the Sistine Chapel. The discovery ripples outward. A senior curial official, a power broker known for his fierce traditionalism, gets wind of the file. An encrypted memo arrives on Lucia's terminal. Cease inquiry. This matter pertains to the security of the Holy See. His motives are clear. Bury a history that could be misinterpreted. Weaponist, simultaneously, a Swiss biotech firm, through a contact in the Antarctic logistics network, learns of the sample. They see not a sacrament, but a product. Exclusive papal ancestry testing, a commercialization of the sacred. Their lawyers send a formal request, citing data sharing precedents. The Antarctic logistics contractor, caught between treaty obligations and lucrative private interests, demands custody of the reliquary, claiming jurisdiction. Lucia and her small team find themselves at the center of a storm, triangulating between their scientific ethics their personal faith, the Pope's right to privacy, and the rigid framework of the Antarctic Treaty. The ink of the logbooks, the blood on the vellum, the ice of the continent tread. Black-white demand a reckoning. Under the otherworldly glow of an Ordo Australis, the crimson stain of blood falls spills from the tongue of the Taylor Glacier. Here Lucía reads the last document, a letter left by a custodian of the Ordo Australis in 1901. It reframes the entire narrative. This is not a line of supremacy, he wrote, but a line of service, a bloodline of duty, not of dominion, to watch, to pray, and to remain hidden. A Southern Cross to mirror the Northern Star. It was never about a claim to the throne of St. Peter. It was a vow of silent stewardship, a promise to protect the Church by disappearing. By Rome Pope Innocent V makes his choice. In a quiet asterisk, motu proprio asterisk, he acknowledges the existence of the Antarctic deposit. He publicly affirms that apostolic succession is a matter of sacrament and spirit, not of genetics or heredity, directly confronting any potential for blood purity myths. He authorizes the full release of the anonymized scientific findings, the ancient DNA analysis, the isotopic data, the radiocarbon dates, a testament to transparency, fulfilling the open data spirit of the Antarctic Treaty. The familial details, however, will remain sealed within the archive. The secret is confessed, but its privacy is protected. A new vow is forged, a Southern duty passed from a forgotten fraternity to a modern archivist. To steward the ice in the archives, the truth and the faith as one. A diplomatic pouch, flagged from Christchurch and bearing the seal of the Antarctic Heritage Trust, arrives under strict chain of custody protocols at the Vatican Secretariat of State. Sister Lucía Rinaldi signs the chirograph, her gloved hand steady. Inside the Apostolic Archives' climate-controlled clean room, she opens the container. A smaller, vacuum-sealed bag holds a fragment of vellum and a single, coarse black hair, recovered from a sealed container found within a preserved explorer's hut at Cape Adare. Her curial permission is narrowly scoped, authentication only. The air hums with the sterile whisper of heat filters, carrying the faint, cold sting of ethanol used to wipe down every surface. The papery, almost spicy scent of ancient vellum, even through its containment, cuts through the sterility. A circular impression on the vellum, a ghost of a long-lost seal, catches the stark lead light. The first signals from the lab are quiet but insistent, appearing as clipped readouts on Lucia's monitor. She prepares the samples in the ancient DNA facility, a place of stone-cool corridors and positive. The initial RD treatment on the hair sample library confirms its antiquity. Damage pattern cytosine deamination clustered at the strand ends are precisely what one expects from centuries-old DNA, not modern contamination. The contamination blanks run in parallel show nothing. She moves to mitochondrial DNA capture. The enriched mtDNA sequence doesn't match any common European or Asian haplogroup. Instead, it points to a rare subclade, C1b13, found almost exclusively among the indigenous peoples of Tierra del Fuego. A separate stable isotope analysis flashes on screen. 15Na and 13C values indicate a diet overwhelmingly high in marine protein, consistent with the historical lifeways of subpolar coastal communities. Meanwhile, the vellum fragment yields its own secret. Accelerator mass spectrometry places its origins squarely in the late 16th to early 17th century, a time when European ships were just beginning to probe the edges of the great southern continent. Antebellum, almost lost to fading, is a partial phrase. Linea Australis Petri. The words are a cipher. Lucía cross-references the phrase against the Vatican's deepest inventories. It leads her to a sealed file from 1605, accessioned under the pontificate of Paul V. The file documents the brief existence of a suppressed fraternity, the Ordo Australis, the Order of the South. These were Jesuit missionaries and astronomers, tasked with a secret mandate to chart the southern skies and seek converts at the world's end. A marginal note in the chirograph, a faint acrostic keyed to the stars of the Southern Cross, Kichiserai. When decoded, It reveals a fragment of the Order's vow. The vow recontextualizes the word linea. It is not a reference to bloodline or lineage, but to a linea officii, a line of duty, a sacred mission undertaken at the southernmost line of the known world. A translated excerpt from the vow appears on her screen. We follow the crux to the final line, bearing the light not of our blood but of his word. The cross of the heavens mirrors the cross of their faith. The findings are too sensitive to proceed without higher authority. Lucía drafts a clipped internal note, sealing it with a simple wafer, and sends it to the Pope's private secretary. The reply is swift and cautious. A meeting is held, not in a grand hall, but in a spare, modern office within the Dumas Sanctae Marthi. Permission is granted, but with strict, unbendable limits. The mtDNA signature can be compared in a double-blind, anonymized fashion against specific diocesan baptismal archives, focusing on records from the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and against genetic databases of known diaspora families from the Punta Arenas region of Chile. The Curial Official is explicit. There will be no direct sampling of the Holy Father. There will be no public claims. This is an exercise in cautious kinship probability, a historical footnote, not a theological revelation. The governance is clear. All raw data pertaining to the Antarctic sample remains under the custody of the New Zealand program, reported back in line with the cooperative ethos of the Antarctic Treaty. The search through the digital archives is like panning for dust in a river of names. The rare C1b13 haplogroup is a Phi-mesh sieve. A hit finally surfaces. Parish registers from the Diocese of Genoa and passenger lists from the Port of Valparaiso sketch a faint trail. A woman bearing the rare mtDNA line, baptized as Yagan, but later given an Italian name, leaves Punta Arenas in the 1890s. She works as a domestic servant for a Genoese merchant family. Her daughter, in turn, marries into a Piedmontese family whose name was changed during the tumult of the early 20th century. That same family appears in the pontiff's maternal genealogy. The thread, once impossibly distant, now connects the ice of Antarctica to the marble of Rome. Lucía sits before her terminal, the single black hair from the archive. Now, a symbol of a forgotten history. She drafts a final, one-paragraph memo for the Holy Father's eyes only. The legal opinion is clear, flagging treaty and privacy implications without melodrama. Her recommendation is measured. Embrace the science with transparency, but stress at every turn that apostolic succession is a matter of sacramental grace, not hereditary biology. The truth is not a threat, but a testament to the unforeseen paths of faith and family. A linear that connects a missionary's duty on the ice to a pope's duty in the Vatican. The earth ends, a pressure drop felt in the bone. Erebus rumbles, a low-frequency hum under the boots, as the katabatic wind sharpens to a blade. On the steam cave's threshold, the New Zealand team works against the clock. The forecast's a tightening knot of low-pressure warnings. Every movement is deliberate, a ballet of parkas and gloved hands under the stark Antarctic sun. They're here under permit, a sanctioned return to the site where the reliquary was found, tasked with documentation and assessing the fragile stability of the ice formations. The mission lead watches the clock UTC displayed in cold red digits on a wrist GPS and the inclinometer readings flickering on a tablet. The ice groans, a resonant shift that echoes the mountain's deep geothermal pulse. A glint of metal, not ice, catches the light. Half buried in the fern on the same ledge as the reliquary, a small brass tag emerges, its surface a dull green with corrosion. The engraving is stark, stamped deep, Iguai 58, CRX International Geophysical Year, 1958. CRX, a survey marker for the Southern Cross. Beside it, almost fused to the ice, rests a small, sealed tin, its edges crimped tight, showing the patina of decades spent in this frozen, sterile dark. The field tech calls out the find, her voice tight in the comms. Chain of custody protocols snap into place immediately. The tag is photographed in situ, its position logged to the millimeter. The tin is handled with sterile tongs, placed into a numbered, sealed transport container. Each step is documented, witnessed, and time-stamped. A ritual of scientific rigor against the looming chaos of the storm. The team retreats, The mouth of the cave a dark circle against the blinding white, leaving the mountain to its fury. Back within the insulated quiet of Scott Bass, the generator's thrum is a constant companion. Inside the laminar flow hood of the clean lab, the ethanol sting is sharp, a sterile scent cutting through the recycled air. The recovered tin, now decontaminated. I'm bearing a custody AD. A technician, gowned and gloved, carefully breaks the seal. The sound is a faint pop, a release of 60-year-old air. Inside, protected by a brittle, yellowed wax paper envelope, is not a logbook or a scientific instrument, but a single, typed slip of paper, and a pressed botanical specimen. The paper is crisp, preserved by the cold. The typeface is from an old manual machine. The ink, a faded black. The message is clipped, precise. Southward vow kept crux as 188, 22, Jan 1958. VA, beneath the slip, resting on the waxed paper, is a single, desiccated sprig of a plant. Its leaves are small, serrated, instantly recognizable to the team's botanist. Its asterisk, Nothofagus, Pumilio, asterisk, Belenga beach, a species native to the subpolar forests of Patagonia and Tierra del Fuego, a ghost of an ecosystem thousands of kilometers away, placed here long before the Antarctic Treaty's environmental protocol established strict biosecurity rules. The sprig is more than a botanical sample. It is a symbol of deliberate connection, a piece of a distant home carried to the harshest place on Earth. It is a tangible link, a southern thread pulled taut across the Drake Passage. Its presence, in this sealed container, a message as clear as the typed words. The vow was not just an idea. It was anchored to a place, a lineage of southern beaches mirroring a lineage of people, thousands of kilometers north, in the wind-scoured port city of Punta Arenas. The name Valentina Aguilar resonates through the quiet archives of the regional museum. Dr. Valentina Reyes, a historian whose own family has roots in the Magallanes diaspora, feels the familiar thrill of a closing circle. The initials VA from the 1958 slip were a fragile lead, but cross-referencing shipping manifests and parish records from the turn of the 20th century yielded a hit. A confraternity ledger from a local parish, dated 1901, lists a young Valentina Aguilar as the designated custodian of the Juramento Austral. The Southern Vow, the confraternity, a lay order tied to a revived Ordo Australis, was dedicated to preserving a specific heritage carried from Europe. The vow was a line item in a ledger, a duty passed down. The thread doesn't end in Patagonia. Following the Aguilar name back into European immigration records, Dr. Reyes uncovers a subtle shift. By 1893, in Genoese port documents, the name has been soft, Italianized to something gentler on the tongue. This new surname, a faint echo of the original, appears in parish records that, generations later, intersect with the maternal ancestry of the current pontiff. The connection is not a direct, bold line, but a delicate, braided cord woven through migration, assimilation, and the quiet persistence of family memory. The vow, taken by a woman in a windswept Patagonian town, now brushes against the walls of the Vatican itself. The discovery isn't about power or inheritance, but about a story, a duty carried across oceans and generations. Its final chapter unexpectedly unfolding in the Antarctic ice. The leak starts as a whisper, a fragment of a lab reports, metadata mtDNA, authenticated damage profile copied, into an internal email and forwarded, chain reaction style, until it breaks containment. Within hours, the headlines erupt, stark and sensational. PayPal genome found in Antarctic ice. The careful, disciplined language of the lab is twisted into a narrative of secret bloodlines and holy DNA. A direct-to-consumer biotech firm, seizing the moment, offers free genetic testing kits to any family in the Magallanes region with the Aguilar surname. A crass marketing ploy, disguised as citizen science. The media noise becomes a deafening roar of speculation, a storm of misinformation mirroring the real one brewing over Erebus. In response, the Vatican Press Office and the New Zealand Antarctic Program issue a rare joint statement, a carefully constructed bulwark of clarity and fact. The language is precise, ministerial. It stresses that apostolic succession is a matter of sacrament and faith, not genetics. Heredity is irrelevant to the Petrine ministry. The statement affirms full compliance with the Antarctic treaty system, emphasizing that all scientific analyses will be restricted to peer-reviewed publication and focused on historical and anthropological understanding, not kinship claims. It is a coordinated effort to reclaim the narrative, to douse the fire of sensationalism with the cold, clear water of institutional transparency and ethical science. The message is unequivocal. The integrity of the sacrament and the integrity of the science are paramount as the storm finally bears down on Erebus, the wind screaming through the volcanic rock. The field team faces a critical choice. The cave's entrance, already fragile, is being scoured by ice-laden gusts. Models show a high probability of collapse. The engineering solution is invasive: rock bolts and shoring timbers. A permanent scar on the landscape forbidden by the environmental protocol. The station lead makes the call. No. Instead, they will build a temporary, removable snow berm. A simple, elegant shield to deflect the worst of the wind. It's a minimal impact solution. A gesture of respect for the continent. For hours, they work, piling and shaping the snow as the sky darkens. When the storm breaks and the air clears to a crystalline calm, the team returns. The berm is held. The cave is intact. They dismantle their shield, leaving no trace but their footprints, which will soon vanish. In the post-storm quiet, a final piece of the puzzle clicks into place. A check of the Antarctic archives against the IGY tag EH58CRX links it to the field log of a specific 1958 geological survey party. An entry from January 22nd of that year notes the placement of survey markers CRX at Azimuth and a brief, unadorned addendum: VA deposit received and placed. It was never a secret, merely undocumented in the public record. The 1958 event was not a clandestine act, but an intentional, documented handoff. One generation passing a duty to the ice, in a long, unbroken chain of a quiet southern vow. The cross in the sky and the cross in the ice. A mirror held up across time.